Hello, everybody. Bit of a long delay on that one. Yeah, we're back. He's missing again. I don't know where he went. Hopefully we can find him. Hi, Connie. Hi, Mom. Hi, Sean. Hello, Mr. Bishop. We gotta. It's funny. This is like in my head. It's gonna be a laid back, calm episode, and at the same time, I know I'm gonna just like enrage everyone at the same time. But tonight we're talking about haunted locations, famous hauntings. We're kind of going for the quantity over quality with tonight, if you will pardon the expressioning. We're going to be talking about places that it's not so much that they have really big paranormal things happen, as much as more it's lots of stuff happens. Is everything okay?
Forgot to turn the camera on.
So, Jesus is physically not here, and the bishop is not here mentally, of course. Anyway, nice to see everybody here. I love live streams on YouTube because, like, the first few minutes of any chat is just everyone saying hi to everyone individually. But, anyway, bye. Anyway, like I said, tonight we're talking about numerous hauntings. And we're going to jump right into it. I almost kind of don't want to because I know there's no way I'm going to keep my composure and remain unbiased when we discuss this. So let's just start off by, kicking the beehive, right? No other way to do it. Now, we kind of talked about this one a little bit before, but as far as I recall, we didn't, super go into detail. But here we are. We're going to be talking about, first off, the infamous Stanley Hotel. Right here in Colorado. Stanley Hotel is built in the... Now, you're going to have to help me out here. It's pronounced Estes?
Estes Park.
Yeah, it's just outside of the town of Estes Park in Estes Valley. Now, what's interesting about this place is that even before Europeans came and started expanding into it, this area was kind of... How do I put this? It was odd. So, I've read a bunch of contradictory things, but basically what I can understand is that this valley was shared, and I use that term very loosely, shared with the Arapaho people and the... Bishop, you're going to help me out here. Ute?
The Ute? Ute, yeah. Ute.
The Ute people?
Yeah.
U-T-E?
Ute, yeah.
Ute, yeah. What a strange name. You want a can opener? A bottle opener? Instead of making a bunch of noise over there. And there's contradictory stories. Some stories claim that they both just lived in the valley and they were fine. Other stories say that they actually fought over it a lot. Because supposedly, the land was... How do I put this without sounding dumb? It had unusual properties that were supposed to be very powerful for healing. It should point out also that the actual land itself, is actually really fertile. It had lots of creeks and things that ran through it. One explanation I heard was that because of the mountains, there were lots of mineral runoffs that made the soil very nutrient, so life was able to thrive really strongly in there. Other stories say that it was magic and blessed. But whichever way you want to cut it, everybody wanted a piece of this valley. And everybody wanted to be there. Including... Everybody. Including one... I'm going to try and say this name correctly. Where was Freeland Stanley, who suffered from tuberculosis. Which, real quick, DJ Scraps, you're over there in the corner. Tuberculosis, walk us through that. What is tuberculosis?
To be completely honest, I couldn't really explain it off the top of my head. It's
Oh.
not something I ever really covered.
Okay. Fair enough. But he suffered from it. And the other weird thing is I've heard the term. I'm not sure what tuberculosis is either. I've heard it.
Potentially serious
It's-
infectious bacterial disease that mainly affects the lung.
Okay, so it's lung problems.
Yeah, it's a lung problem. That's all I know.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's also insanely hard to treat, can't be really vaccinated against, and killed a lot of people.
Yeah,
Well,
it's no joke.
Yeah, the only way you could really keep it from spreading was by quarantining people.
Yeah. But anyway, so he had tuberculosis. Now, he was also a very wealthy entrepreneur. He had tons and tons of buildings and properties and stuff. But he heard stories about how this supposedly Estes Valley had this healing property to it, and it was magical. So he went there. He was like, well, I'm dying. A, it works, and the place is magic, and I can be healed. Or B, I can be somewhere pretty when I die. Supposedly that was literally his logic. Like, his wife didn't originally approve of the idea, because they were from way out east. Specifically the Northeast. I want to say they may have been around New York, but don't quote me on that because I'm a genius and I didn't write it down in my notes. But she didn't approve of it, and basically he was like, no, we're doing it. You can divorce me and lose all my money if you want, but I'm going to Estes Valley. Well, here's the funny thing. He actually recovered. And because of that, stories spread like wildfire. Because again, this was a very rich, powerful man. He had lots of political friends. Everybody knew him back in the day. And they heard that he had tuberculosis. He went to this valley and he recovered somehow. So, I mean, stories spread about Estes Valley having all kinds of weird powers. Being able to cure any disease. Regenerating the elderly. I'm not joking. They claimed that the land of Estes Valley could literally turn back time. And to be fair, our boy Freeland, he lived to be 91 years old. He lived a real long time. But anyway, and people started telling stories about this place. So he got the idea. What if they had a property that they could go and rest at when they're in this magic valley that saved my life? So he built what became known as the Stanley Hotel. Now, supposedly it was great at first. I see movement.
Yeah, or just being happy and enjoying life, and then
Yeah.
good medicine.
Well, they say sunlight is the greatest disinfectant. But anyway, everybody wanted to go there, so he built this hotel. Now, the hotel itself was completed in... I am so good at making notes, by the way, guys. You have no idea. 1909 is when they actually opened the building. And it was... honestly, yeah, no, it was great. It was banger. Because, again, everybody wanted to come here. One of the things that made it really popular was that Freeland, he was a starch believer in the superiority of traditional English architecture. And so the Stanley Hotel kind of was weird looking for the region, where a lot of other buildings in the area were built more minimalist and practical, like you would see it... Colonial. The more old western-y kind of buildings that you might be thinking of.
Colonial.
Anyway, And then you had the Stanley Hotel that was much more, I'm trying to think, how do they describe it? Distinctly Western coastline. Mainly because he simply thought that that kind of architecture was better. I'm not quite sure the term. But anyway, and honestly, for about, I want to say 30, 40 years, it was great. Stanley himself died in, where was it? 1940, I believe. And again, at the age of 91. Unfortunately, there was a bit of a problem. So, when he died, his estate was inherited. The inheritors of the Stanley Hotel, to be completely blunt, were a bunch of snotty little trust fund kids who didn't understand that you have to actually work to earn money. The Stanley Hotel wasn't just some magic genie's lamp that, you rub it and it poofed out $1 million or something. Basically, they became incredibly lazy and didn't take care of the property. It fell into horrible disrepair. They laid off a lot of workers to save money. In fact, in the 1970s, they were considering to scrap the building itself and actually try to sell the salvage from it, like tearing out the wiring and stuff. In fact, it was in specifically, what year was it?
It's always sad how historic buildings are never historical in the present.
Yeah, it was, I want to say 1975, I think it was.
Which makes you wonder how many awesome buildings were torn down because nobody thought they were historical at the time.
Wow, that is a depressing thought, actually. I mean, you're not wrong, but damn, dude.
What?
Somebody call the police. The bishop just killed the mood. Anyway, a certain prolific grave-robbing asshole, I mean famous American author, Stephen King, stayed at the Stanley Hotel. Here's the funny thing. In case you didn't think Stephen King was enough of a chode, he literally confessed that the reason he went to the Stanley Hotel was because of the fact it was basically derelict. He specifically was going there hiding from his family. I'm not joking. Which is interesting because his wife was with him. The story changes, I noticed. In the older interviews, he mentions that he was hiding from his family. In more recent times, he changed it to him and his wife were hiding from their children. Fascinating, right? By the way, Q King. Anyway.
I think he was just spending the entire time poring over books and highlighting all the passages he wanted to plagiarize.
Oh, it gets better. Get this. So, he stayed in the infamous room 217. And he claimed that he had a nightmare, and by the way, I'm quoting this. I know people like to say, oh, you like to rag on Stephen King, and you like to make fun of him. No. These are his words. His words. He claimed that while staying in room 217, he had a nightmare about a fire hose attacking his son. Don't look at me like that. I'm not making this up. He claimed that he had a nightmare about a fire hose attacking his son. It was so bad he woke up and had to walk over to the window, get some fresh air, and smoke a cigarette. Now, he claims that in the time it took him to finish that cigarette, because of the dream, he had thought of the entire storyline for The Shining. Yeah. And I'm going to get a blowjob from my girlfriend tonight.
Good night, everybody.
I love my audience. What are you doing up there, by the way? I see you up there. Calm down. The little guy.
He's all jumping around up there. Hi, buddy.
He's all excited. I don't know. I guess he really likes King. You like King?
How dare you?
Oh dear. I think I offended him.
Get the knife.
Don't encourage him. Anyway, but King claimed that, yeah, he had had a nightmare where a fire hose attacked his son while he was hiding from his son. And in the time it took to smoke a cigarette, he thought of the entire outline for The Shining. Right. Anyway, though. Now, there is something interesting, though. Room 217 actually has something strange about it before King. So, apparently, a couple years after the building had actually opened, I want to say it was in 1911. In 1911, there had been a flood in the Estes Valley. And because of that, they lost power for several days. Now, our boy, Freeland, he saw a flaw in electricity. You know what doesn't go out when there's a flood? Gas. So he wanted to install a gas system into the building so it could have gas-powered lanterns to use instead of electricity, which again he felt was finicky and dangerous and not practical. There was just one problem. Apparently he had a really bad sense of smell, and he didn't realize that there was a gas leak, specifically in the vicinity of room 217. Until one day, when a maid walked in, apparently she had wanted to get away from everybody else. She wanted to take a cigarette break, so she went into a part of the apartments, a part of the hotel, I'm not making this up, that was more or less empty, and she struck up a match and blew up 10% of the entire property.
Wow.
She survived. However, witnesses testified and confirmed that a bathtub had rocketed into the sky, and people seeing it reported a UFO.
Oh, yeah, I mean...
Fortunately, no one died from the explosion, though the maid was incredibly hurt. She actually stayed with the company. She only resigned shortly after Freeland himself died in 1940 because she didn't like his inheritors and how they were treating the building. You know, you gotta kind of admire that. I don't know if I want to work in a building where I was blown up.
She blew herself up.
Still.
Okay. Accidentally, she didn't know. Never mind.
Yeah. Anyway, by the way, after that, Freeland took out the gas system and decided that electricity was better off. I mean, make your own opinions on that, but that's what happened. But here's the problem. Here's the thing that I bet everyone's going to hate my guts for saying. There's no reason for the Stanley Hotel to be haunted. Looking at its history, nothing happened. Yeah, there was the gas explosion in 1911. No one died. There was never any murders on the ground. There was never... literally, I looked through the history of this place. Nothing ever happened. But every Tom, Dick, and Harry that's gone there, coincidentally since the 70s, when a certain individual went there, have been pushed, shoved, they've heard voices, they've been attacked. There's a really strange story about a little girl who they specifically mention is autistic that haunts the 4th floor. I'm curious, how do you know if a ghost is autistic? I mean, I'll take your word for it. I'm going to question you, but I'm going to okay, fine, whatever. But even then, guess what? No autistic girls died on that property. Literally nothing has ever happened at the Stanley Hotel. The weirdest thing about it is the people's reports of being touched and hearing voices, And the fact that before Freeland came along, there were stories that it was a magical valley. That's it. There's no spirits. There's no dead things. There's literally nothing that accounts for why or how the Stanley Hotel is haunted. Other than apparently one of the world's most talentless hacks claimed he had a nightmare about a phallic object attacking his kid. I'm sorry, okay? I had to reread that a few times over. A fire hose attacked my son, and I woke up and had to walk over and have a cigarette. I don't mean to get all Freudian on you, but I have very uncomfortable questions, and I don't think I want the answers. But really, there's nothing about it being haunted before King came along. And some people even claim that, yeah, it's all made up. That it was literally a publicity stunt to promote the building because they realized they couldn't sell it for scrap. Another odd coincidence, by the way, about the Stanley Hotel, I can feel the heat from the torches and pitchforks, by the way. I know they're coming for me. I guarantee people are not going to be happy about me saying this. But I'm going to say it anyway. I don't think the Stanley Hotel is haunted at all. I think it's a bunch of bunk. I think it was stories spread to keep the place alive. Because again, most of the stories about it being haunted come from people conveniently who get paychecks from that place. Most of the stories of hauntings are from employees. Hey, Bishop, don't forget, we're haunted. Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, someone totally shoved you.
Yeah.
And don't forget, there's that little autistic girl who giggles on the 4th floor, right?
Yeah.
You did change the batteries in the speaker, right?
Yeah.
Good. Okay. Yeah.
She's scary.
Oh yeah. No. Terrifying. My shoes have jumped off me. Oh Lord, I hope that autistic girl don't spook me again. Almost as bad as that mechanical bear they hide in the basement. I almost don't want to look at the chat right now, but I know I got to. I'm scared. Still, everyone's just saying hello. Sean coming to my defense here. Say, Sean and Mr. Bishop. I have 2 friends in the chat. I am so glad. Stephen King's Shining sucks anyway. Kubrick saved the story. Yeah. Yeah, you're a film guy, Bishop. What would you say? Would you say Kubrick made that movie good? Or, well, it wasn't a movie. It was a series, wasn't it?
No, it was a movie. There was a TV series.
You can really feel the actor abuse.
I never read the book. I'm not a big fan of Kubrick.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're not a Kubrick guy. You don't like him.
I would say,
dude, I've already said the Stanley Hotel is a fraud. I don't think we can anger anyone any more than we are right now. So go ahead and just say you don't like him.
I've seen all those movies except Eyes Wide Shut, and The Shining is his best, I would say. But no, I'm not a big fan of him.
He actually filmed the lunar landing.
Oh yeah.
The problem is he was such a perfectionist that he actually demanded it be filmed on location.
Oh, see, that makes sense. I mean, his directing is decent. Just his subject matter is just not.
Yeah, he was a very. He's not around anymore, right? He passed away.
Yeah.
He was a very pessimistic, bleak person, if I recall correctly.
Yeah.
And as Scraps mentioned, supposedly horrible to work with.
Yeah, he was very particular. Like everything he did was very dark and bleak.
The chick that played the wife in The Shining.
Oh.
Said, if I remember correctly, she refused to work with him again because he horribly abused her during that movie.
Yeah, now I've heard some people try to defend him that he never hit her, but like he would scream at her and yell at her and
gaslight her.
Yeah.
Super abusive.
Yeah.
Like verbally.
Yeah. He never put his hands on her, but there's other ways to abuse somebody.
Some worse ways too.
Yeah, I can see that argument. I kind of agree with you. But anyway, yeah, no, the Stanley Hotel, I'm going to say it. There's no explanation for... Well, because like every place that's haunted has some history. You know what I mean? Hauntings don't just crop up one day. Except apparently the Stanley Hotel. Stanley Hotel is just abracadabra.
Yeah,
Oh, get back up there, you silly girl. That kobold pushed her.
Yeah.
Uh,
Trouble. Oh, he's coming.
behave yourself.
No.
Anyway, though.
Yeah, he was getting really wild while you were
Yeah, but
looking away.
like I said, no. The Stanley Hotel is bizarre for paranormal stuff, and everyone always jokes like, "You should go there." Do you know how much it costs? Like, hell no, I'm not giving my money to that. Also, just because it's in the same state as me does not mean that I can just be there. You know what I mean? But yeah.
Would be cool to see, I guess. But
I guess it'd be kind of neat to see, but at the same time, I still argue. I'm sorry. I think it's fake. I think it's a bunch of what's the term?
smoke and mirrors.
Yeah, well, yeah, smoke and mirrors and power of suggestion kind of thing. Because the common ones are, well, you'll feel a breeze, and then there's the little autistic girl on the fourth floor who giggles. By the way, is it the giggling? Do they assume she's autistic because she giggles? I hate to sound rude, Mr. King, but you do realize non-autistic people can giggle too, right? I wouldn't be shocked.
You can feel a breeze. Your friend ripping ass. The girl upstairs giggles. Clearly she's
autistic. But yeah, no. I'm sorry. The more I looked into the Stanley Hotel, the more I have to say, it's bunk.
Just a big letdown.
Yeah.
Pretty though.
Yeah. Okay. I get. Yeah, it is cool looking. I'll give you that. But haunted. I'm sorry. There's no. It don't add up. But you know what does add up? Is the haunting at our second place that we're going to talk about tonight. The infamous Edgefield of Portland, Oregon. So this place has a bit of an interesting history. It's almost like a bizarro land haunted house, if you will. So get a load of this, folks. In the early 1900s, I want to say around... you know what's funny? It's actually around the same time that the Stanley Hotel was built, around 1910. Edgefield was founded by the state of Oregon, has what's called a poor farm. Now, for those of the uninitiated here in our wonderful chat, a poor farm basically was kind of like, how do I put this nicely? It was an elaborate sort of shelter, if you will, for homeless people or people who simply couldn't hold down a job. They had very bad reputations because very often you didn't just get a roof over your head, you were put to work. Specifically, it would serve as a farm.
It was a work plantation.
Basically, yeah, for poor people. And stories abound of poor farms being incredibly cruel and very strict and brutal. And then along came Edgefield. that was described in its heyday as a paragon of an example of what good a government could do. Supposedly, Edgefield was like the opposite of what most of the poor farms actually were like. Supposedly, they were incredibly good caring and took care of them, the people who lived there. And it was a huge, huge property. Normally, through most of its existence, it had over 300 residents. But during the Great Depression, it ballooned up to 600 people living on this farm. It was so bad that the clergy who actually oversaw it, they literally had to make accommodations for people to sleep in closets so they could have a roof over their head. Families had to share rooms because they had only so much space and they had all these people that they needed to help. And again, it's funny because looking back at the history, this place was was wonderful. There were no stories of people being beaten to death or worked to death or crap like that. It was the opposite. They had a big problem with people wanting to live there. People wanted to live in Edgefield. To the point where it's like, are you really poor? Are you sure? Are you just, we have limited space, man. We can't just let people live here because they want to. This is for people who are actually in trouble. But then, after the war ended, the Second World War, for those who aren't paying attention, after it ended, there was the economic boom. A lot of people were able to move out of Edgefield and got their own properties and, got their life in order. And it went back down pretty low. What's interesting is that after that, after the 40s, it kind of shifted, and instead of being a poor farm, it became more like a nursing home, a retirement place. It still maintained its excellent reputation as being, again, I'm not like hyperbolicing here. It was literally described as a paragon. Edgefield was a paragon of how a building, whether it was run by the government or clergy, could actually genuinely help people. And it kind of was too good for its own good, if you get what I mean, because the population around it got better. It improved the situation to the point that it was kind of obsolete. It wasn't needed anymore because it successfully got people back up and running. And then when it was a retirement home, well, the thing was, with the implements of things like welfare and Social Security, people didn't need nursing homes as much anymore. A lot more people were just staying home with their families or retiring on their own property. And so it kind of just faded away, being used less and less and less until the late 1970s, early 80s. And hold on to your hats for this one, boys and girls, because I'm going to say something that you're going to accuse me of lying about. But this is completely true.
Liar.
Case in point. In the mid-1980s, the building they'd been closed down because they didn't really have any need anymore. So, I'm not joking, teenagers from around the area moved into the building and began circulating stories about it being the site of satanic rituals and how it was an asylum where they tortured mental people. And there was a plague that spread through it. No, you better stay away from there. There was a plague that spread through and killed hundreds of the people who lived there, and actually their lives were probably saved by the building, actually, if you think about it. All these horrible things happened. They intentionally damaged pipes and caused flooding in parts of the building. They literally They literally were Scooby-Doo villains. They spread ghost stories to scare people away from the building so they could stay there free. It wasn't until the 1990s when, I'm going to try and pronounce this name correctly, McMinimans? The McMiniman brothers, who were from Oregon, and actually were, when I looked them up, they were actually referred to as Portland's Sons. They were literally known as the Sons of Portland. Don't know why they would be, but that's what they were called. They saw opportunity in the buildings. And so because that's what they actually do. They were entrepreneurs. They bought up properties dirt cheap and then rebuilt them. And basically they didn't fall for it. They were like, no, there was never a plague at Edgefield. It was never an asylum. And everyone who lived there was there willingly. It wasn't a slave plantation. It was, again, considered a paragon. And so they bought it with the intention of turning it into kind of a, what would the term be? A resort? Not a resort.
It'd be a resort.
Yeah, a resort. Okay, a resort. And they had all these grandiose ideas about it, that they would hold art festivals there, and they would have concerts and all these things. And if I'm not mistaken, when they very, very first started building on it, the first thing they built, so priorities here, the first functioning part of the building was a pub. The first thing they did was make sure they could give people booze.
Well, yeah, that makes sense.
But that was their idea, was to turn it into kind of a resort, with a strong emphasis on art and like artists and conventions and things like that. And it's still functioning today, actually. But here's the thing that's kind of funny. Those teenagers, they didn't want to give up their free house without a fight. They did all kinds of supposed sabotages, including, and this was actually pretty grisly because I think it was the brothers themselves who made this discovery. An actual satanic altar had been constructed in part of the building with a pentagram made of various animal bones. And here's the funny thing, though. The brothers looked at that and were like, well, Satan, get the hell off our property. We're buying this and we're not backing down. So they dismantled this altar and literally were like, no, we don't care. They supposedly did actually ask for some local priests to come in and pray over the grounds, just in case. But in spite of all these tricks, and again, that's the really gruesome one that everyone brings up, because it was actual animal bones. I'm not talking about like chicken bones from the KFC. These were like dog and cat bones. So whoever these vandals and hoodlums were, they really weren't playing around. They sincerely wanted to scare the tar out of anyone who would dare go near this building that they had laid claim to. And as far as I know, they were never like arrested or caught. We don't know who these people were, other than that they were local kids. They were always described as teenagers.
They were just like punks,
yeah,
whatever, back in the 90s.
Douchebags, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Punks. But they were never caught per se. It's just that the brothers were like, yeah, no, this is our property now. You don't get your free place. We're not falling for it, buddy.
Go away.
Basically. Go away or I'll mock you again. You better hope we don't get some meddling kids with a talking dog to really cause problems for you.
Well, this is back in the day when Oregon, you bought property and you told somebody to leave a few times, you go in and you whoop some ass if they don't leave.
Yeah, no, it's kind of funny. Oregon used to take no shit about this.
Yeah.
I remember stories about like how I remember there was a joke. You know how George Lucas got the idea for the Tusken Raiders? He went to Oregon.
Oh. Oh, yes, there was a great Oregon joke about that. I know that one.
Yeah. Half of Oregon is Tatooine. The other half is the moon of Endor.
Yes, pretty much, yes.
But no. Now, what's interesting is that, much like the Stanley Hotel, Edgefield, like, by the dozens, there are stories. Nothing ever big, nothing ever major, but lots of things like people hearing voices, feeling touched. A couple people have claimed to be shoved. But what's interesting is that it's an oddly, how do I put this politely? It's a happy haunting. You never hear stories about, like, I was attacked by a demon or something like that. It's always like, yeah, no, I felt someone tap me on the shoulder. I could have sworn I heard someone calling me from another room. It's never like, get out of the house. It's not a negative haunting. And actually, one explanation is, well, yeah, because it was such a good place that they treated and took care of the people there so well, some of the spirits didn't want to leave, and so they choose to stay there. There is a kind of grim little history in that because of their huge populations, ranging from 300 to 600 people, when somebody would pass away, they would very often end up just being buried on the property, sometimes with an unmarked grave. Supposedly there were a lot of cremations, and because of that, there are lots of bodies, quote unquote, still on the grounds, because they would cremate them and then just spread their ashes out in the field. I think it's referred to as the East Lawn, is particularly active, if I'm not mistaken. And some people theorize that was probably a very common dumping ground, if you will, for the ashes of the people they had to cremate. But yeah, no, the Edgefield haunting is, like I said, it's the bizarro haunting. It's not bad or scary. Like I said, I think a couple people have claimed that they were shoved, but that literally is it. That's it. There's no clawing. There's no nightmares that you supposedly get with a lot of hauntings and things like that. And actually, we have a first-hand experience expert on the matter, if I'm not mistaken. Mr. Bishop, if you want to come in and talk about it for a minute here. Now, you want to... Whoa! Oh, goodness! Hi, famine. Hi, gluttony. Yeah, hang out with...
Eyeing me.
It's okay. Eyeing you nothing. He's on your head.
He's on my head.
Yeah, hold on here. I'll scoot over a little bit so you can... So, now you are something of an expert on Edgefield. You were actually at Ground Zero.
I was. I worked there from April 2015 till December 31st, 2016, before I moved to Denver, Colorado. It was really cool. I worked in a restaurant. I was a dishwasher very briefly, and then I was a prep cook for a long time at the Black Rabbit, which is one of the many restaurants on the site. And I will say, like, I've been on several paranormal investigations, things like that. The only place that I've ever had anything that I could actually honestly say might be paranormal was at Edgefields. There was one thing that sort of happened on camera. I'll get to that in a minute. But when I worked there, the story was among all the employees and everybody around the area, oh, it's haunted. People get pushed downstairs. People are tugged. People feel uncomfortable. Women have their hair pulled, especially women with long hair.
Now, did you have long hair when you worked there?
I had long-ish hair.
Not quite like this.
Probably about the same, I would say.
Did you ever have your hair pulled?
My hair was never pulled, no.
Because I know that I know you've been mistaken before from behind.
Yes. There were 2 times where I was called ma'am, and I turned around and...
This majestic face just...
Excuse me, ma'am. I'm like, yeah.
Was it?
Oh, I'm so sorry. It's like, oh.
But yeah, no. But yeah, you did actually have an experience there.
Yes. So the experience I had was back when I was really doing filming like paranormal investigations. I've been to several places. The only place that I actually caught something on camera that I could potentially say was odd was at Edgefield. And I didn't hear it at the time, but when I was filming, I was just down in, at the time it was called the generator room. I don't know what it was back historically. And I filmed, I went into work like half hour early or whatever and just filmed really quick down there. And a couple days later when I was editing the footage, I heard a voice, or to clarify, I heard something on the camera that to me sounded like go outside.
Go outside. Okay.
And I remember that's really weird because
Yeah.
as I'm watching the footage back, it's just like, go outside.
Yeah. Now, unfortunately, we you still have that footage.
Yeah, and
But unfortunately, when we were preparing for tonight's show, something happened to it, and the audio
It's-
won't work.
I can pull it up now, but yeah, the audio is not working. I can put a link to the original video that I posted back, this was like early 2016.
Yeah.
And I've always said I'm a skeptic, but I'm not a skeptic in the sense of nowadays skeptics where skeptic means you'll deny it.
Yeah.
I'm a skeptic as in the sense of I was in the generator room and there was a really loud generator going, and then I heard this, and I'm not passing it off as the big generator, which is powering like half this entire property, which again is huge.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm not going to say it was paranormal.
Well,
Um,
it's a voice. That's kind of all it is. We can't say for certain, but that's also part of the nature of paranormal investigation.
Yeah, and
Now I have now you didn't normally work down there.
no, this is see, okay, I worked
Could it have been a ghost being like, get back where you belong? You don't work down here.
maybe,
Go outside. You're not supposed to be here.
but I didn't work outside. This was where everybody went down into the basement to get their chef's uniforms, and all the employees, we all got a chef coat. At the time, I was a prep cook, so I did go down. I put on my white chef's coat.
Yeah.
And I remember after I heard that, which was a few days later on camera, I didn't hear it actually when I was filming down there because I was just filming a video like,
Yeah.
hey, I'm down here. Hello. I'm at Edgefield. Yeah, doing a video. And a few days later, I heard that and was a little freaky, but I also thought to myself, there was no reason for me to go outside. There was no reason for me to leave the building. Nothing bad happened that day. Nothing bad happened really any day. But it is the only time that something
God damn it, Sean.
has happened that I can personally testify could potentially be paranormal.
A ghost told you to go touch grass.
See, I didn't hear it at the time. I just like, okay, I'm done filming. I went to work. Nothing happened. I mean,
Yeah. But that kind of goes along with a lot of the paranormal stuff at Edgefield.
there were a couple other odd things that, again, are the skeptic in me. I always try to debunk before I just say, "Oh, that's a demon.
Oh yeah.
That's a demon." Stuff would fall off. I did feel a tug back here, but it's like, well,
That could be a lot of things.
yeah, and I never felt afraid. I never felt scared.
Yeah. But again, that kind of goes with a lot of what people say about Edgefield, that it's not a negative haunting.
Yeah, I never felt I never felt uncomfortable. I never felt scared. I never felt bad. And there were employees who, they all had stories about like, oh, I was tugged, or I was walking down the stairs and I felt like a pressure on my back. Nobody ever said they were scared. Nobody ever said they felt...
No phantom scratch marks or anything like that.
No.
Yeah.
I stayed in several of the rooms. $300 a night back in 2016.
Oh.
Employees got any room $40 a night if it was free. I stayed in several and not a single thing.
No nightmares. No. You never pictured a child being attacked by a phallic object and then went on to write one of the most overrated stories of all time? Really?
No, never happened.
Wow. Now, okay, so I do want your opinion, though. Because, again, people claim that Edgefield is haunted because spirits didn't want to leave. I have to ask you, you were there for over a year.
Yeah, I was there just under 2 years.
Just under 2 years. Would you be willing to, on camera, in front of a live microphone, would you be willing to say if you believe it is or isn't haunted?
Of all the places I've been to that are haunted, Edgefield's the only one where I can honestly say that maybe. Because everyone has this experience where, like, something walked through the door and it glared at me, or so-and-so. That's never happened to me. And... Did it happen to you?
You okay over there?
I'm stretching.
And it's never happened to me. And there's excuse after excuse of why nothing's happened to me compared to other people. But I will say the only place I've ever had something that could potentially be paranormal has been at Edgefield.
Was Edgefield. Sean brings a very good question. Were any of the ghosts there autistic?
I don't think so. I mean, no.
No?
I mean, the biggest, like I said, the biggest thing that happened was on my camera it said,
Go outside.
Go outside. But at the time I didn't hear that. It was only played back. There's a lot of paranormal stuff about, well, the cameras can hear stuff we can't, or we can hear things the cameras can't.
Yeah, I've heard about that too.
I'm really annoyed because it didn't come up. I'm going to put links in the description to the channel that I used to do these videos for, just so you can actually go and see it. Because this was my friend Morton. Not talked to him in a while. The channel kind of just died.
Out. Yeah. Because your dad's in here saying that he's heard it. You're recording.
Yeah, my dad's heard it. You've heard it. I showed you like a long time ago. But when I conveniently try to pull it up, it's not there.
Interesting how... Because I saw you working over there in the corner, and it was playing, but for some reason the video specifically...
Is not playing.
Yeah, it wouldn't play the audio. Which is where the paranormal evidence is.
Yeah, and...
I'm not accusing you of it. I'm just saying that is oddly coincidental.
And
because I've heard some stories say some ghosts don't want there to be evidence of them, don't want to be seen or heard.
But the thing is, it's like, why would it want to be seen and heard in the moment?
Imagine being a ghost and finally being able to get away from everybody. Then you just have a bunch of nerdy ghost hunters constantly looking for you. Like, bitch, I went to the afterlife to be left alone.
See, I always made the argument, like, if I was a ghost, I would...
I would love to, I would absolutely haunt people. I would totally be like, sup, bitches?
Because I always made the argument that I would mess with people, but at the same time, it's like, if I really think about it, would I?
Oh, dude, no, seriously. After I die, you are gonna find EVPs. I'm the Prince of Darkness, bitch. That's how you'll know it's me.
But can they?
I'm gonna try.
I'm gonna put links.
What's the point of being dead if you can't scare people?
Shout out to DDF Ghost Hunting. I'm gonna put links. Go check it out. The full video's there, or type in McMinimans Edgefields Ghost Hunts. You'll see me from like 5 years ago. I'm sitting there on the table, and yeah.
Yeah. The disappointing thing is, though, that with all your experience, we can't figure out if there were any autistic ghosts there. I'm sorry, it's funny to me. It's not autism. I mean, that we have to address now, is the ghost autistic? Thanks, frickin' Stanley Hotel.
Yes, thank you.
But I wouldn't mind seeing Edgefield. I've heard lots of cool stories about it. I think it sounds neat.
That's where I chopped off half my finger.
I remember that, yeah. We made fun of you for that.
We're not going to post those pictures. It was like kind of... I was chopping
that was pretty
bacon
gnarly.
And
yeah.
I was sober. It was painful.
I would imagine you cut off the tip of your finger.
But yeah, that was the biggest experience. Other things, little things happened, like there was a ladle that fell off a rack. Yes, I know it doesn't sound
well, it was
very
like hooked
big,
on there, though.
but it was hooked onto a rack.
So it would have had to have been lifted off before it could fall.
In theory, yes. Now, somebody could have just taken the rack and been like, ha, let's get somebody. And I didn't inspect it before, but there was a bunch of ladles, a bunch of spoons that had hooks on the end, and this one just right onto the counter, onto the floor. I'm like...
Conveniently when you were in the room.
Yes. Yes,
so
I was
somebody
alone.
perfectly balanced... So you're saying, hold on, you're saying your explanation is that someone perfectly balanced the end of the ladle
yes.
onto this rack, just so that somebody later, when they're not around to see or hear it, might potentially get freaked out by a ladle falling.
Yes.
Weird fetish, but we're accepting here.
As a skeptic, I will argue one way or the other.
Well, see, my problem is I have to be skeptical of your skepticism here, because it's like, that is a lot of steps for something that they got nothing in return for. The easier explanation is that something without a body lifted it. Because why would you go through the effort of a prank that you would not be able to see the result of?
Because you're... I'm not accusing the McMinimans brothers or the company of anything, but if you're paid a lot of money, put a ladle there, and when somebody comes through the room, which I don't remember if there was no door on the bakery. Because this happened in the bakery, which was down in the bottom. So you would think, okay, if you want to plan it out, you perfectly balance a ladle. When somebody comes through the door, the vibrations will pop. And I remember it was about a minute after I came in.
Yeah, then your vibrations would have knocked it over when you went through the doorway, when you went by the rack. It wouldn't have happened later.
And I don't think there was a door on the bakery.
I can't imagine the ladle was sitting there thinking, no, I must wait for the perfect moment. Oh, now I fall. I'm sorry, but there's a point where you have to acknowledge that the simplest answer is a paranormal one. Because those are some steps, man. I hope you got shoes on. For the record, open eyes. Hell no, I am not going to haunt West Virginia. Even dead, I'm going to stay away from that terrifying and confusing place. I bet you that's where Jesus is. I bet you anything. I bet you that's where he is right now.
But what if you don't have a choice?
Oh,
what if when you die, they're
West
like,
Virginia is hell.
You get to haunt someplace, but it's West Virginia.
Oh, God, it's like Beetlejuice. You get assigned a freaking haunting place.
But yeah, I don't want to take up the show.
Oh no, you're fine, dude. Seriously.
There was a time I was standing. This all happened when I was alone, by the way.
Well,
I was standing there, and there was a.
Yeah, someone tugged on your shirt.
And I look back. I'm like, okay, there's nothing
No, it couldn't have gotten hooked on something?
No, I was facing the dish rack.
Mm-hmm.
This was like the first thing that happened. I just got tugged, and I'm just like, okay, that was weird. And I like checked, I patted, there's nothing there, and I kind of forgot about it.
Yeah.
I want to say a few days until I was at work again, and I just like mentioned it. And it's like, oh yeah, they'll grab you and they'll tug you. I'm like, I don't know. And
but you were never scared.
No, I never felt scared. I never felt.
That's the kind of unique thing about Edgefield, because all these haunted places are like, it's an evil presence because 12,000 people lost their lives here, or some crap like that. And then there's Edgefield where it's like, no, you don't understand. It was such a cool place that the people wanted to stay there after they died.
That's
Good guy Edgefield, I guess? I don't know. I've never heard of a haunting caused by how good a place is.
I worked there almost 2 years. I'm not endorsing the company. I'm not talking bad about them. It's just I'm talking my experiences.
Yeah.
And
well, that's what I wanted you here for.
it was a cool place to work. I was a prep cook most of the time, and
you liked it there, I want to say, didn't you?
I liked the job. The people there were really cool. A lot of my friends growing up, they worked there. None of them are working there now, but
yeah. See, everyone's like, you should go to the Stanley Hotel. No, I want to go to Edgefield.
See, Edgefield's cool. They have a theater there. I worked at the Black Rabbit restaurant. There's the Power Station pub. There's the
Is that the original pub that the brothers made first?
I honestly don't know that.
Are there multiple pubs?
Yeah, there's.
Okay, so it could be a different one. I'm sorry, I'm still tickled pink by the fact that they bought this property that's supposedly so evil and bad, and their first thing was, screw you! Let's have some beer. Because that's something that Mr. Bishop was saying, is like that they loved beer.
Yeah, they were big on beer. They're huge Grateful Dead fans. There's a big statue of Jerry Garcia in their lawn. They hold concerts there, concerts on the lawn every summer. Again, not endorsing, just saying. I've posted links to their website. As an employee, I've seen some good concerts that I
wouldn't have been able to otherwise.
Yeah, and on my lunch breaks, I'd be like, I'm going to go see so-and-so for a little bit, like Willie Nelson, Brandy Carlisle, Cage the Elephant. The one that I did pay for, because I actually went to see this show, was Panic at the Disco opening for Weezer. Saw Death Cab for Cutie. Again, not necessarily the biggest fan. But
Still
that
cool.
was a good show.
I want to say my sister was a big fan of Panic at the Disco, but I don't want to put words in her mouth.
Really quick, the best show, Empire of the Sun. I saw them 30 minutes on my lunch break, and then I actually worked a concert cooking chicken. Amazing, even though I wasn't watching it. Great, yeah.
Okay.
But
yeah, that's Edgefield.
And again, I'll post links to DDF Ghost Hunting, where I'm there in my My Chemical Romance shirt.
the happiest haunting on earth.
But yeah,
I guess could we say that people are dying to stay there?
It is a cool property.
I'll give everyone a moment to groan and recover from that horrible joke, but I am not apologizing.
I mean,
but you know what we need now that we've talked about this happy place, this positive, good. Calm down over there.
he's looking at me.
He is. He You better be careful. He's wanted on 12 planets. He gets around. Oh, bye. Anyway, though. So from perhaps the happiest haunting to probably one of the darkest and worst. We're going to wrap this show up with the A bit of an awkward one to talk about, actually. I'm alone now. The infamous...
I was alone at Edgefield every time everything happened. But I wasn't scared.
Well, a lot of people get scared when they go to this place. I am talking about, of course, the infamously tragic... I'm going to try really hard not to butcher this name. Aokigahara. I hope I pronounced that correctly.
You got it right. Aokigahara.
Aokigahara. Which has many, many horrible names. Some people refer to it as the Killing Forest. Other people refer to it as the last forest you'll ever see. Its name directly translates, actually, to the Blue Tree Meadow. It is also referred to as the Sea of Trees. I cannot say on YouTube, because of the guidelines, what it is most commonly called.
Oh, you know what it's called.
I'm sure they all do, but I'm going to point out the guidelines are so stupid.
It starts with the same 3 letters as Suicune from Pokemon does.
Yeah, it is the Forest of Ending Your Subscription to Life. This place is very strange and pretty horrible. Now, interestingly, it has a history going back into like ancient times, but nothing as bad as it currently is. It's very close to, I want to say, Mount Fuji.
Yeah,
It's actually
it's underneath Mount.
It's just under. Like, you could get to Mount Fuji through this forest if you could actually make it through this forest.
I can't give a...
Yeah, my geography is not a strong point. But anyway, and at one time it was hailed for its beauty. And supposedly was a place that would actually be visited by... trying to remember what kind of monk were they? Not Dotus, that's Chinese. I'm trying to remember now. But
Shinto.
Shinto. Yeah, Shinto, the nature worshiper dudes. Yeah, Shinto monks would visit it just to be in nature. It was so quiet and so peaceful. And something happened. Something very, very bad. Records of this place basically start around in the 1970s, when several bodies were discovered inside of the actual forest. Because it's technically speaking, I want to say it's like a national park, actually. But people had been found there. And because of this, the government of Japan had to step in. And today there are routine sweeps through this forest looking for people who are not among the living anymore. It is covered in signs in multiple languages, because that's the creepy part. People will travel to Japan to cancel their subscription to life, specifically in this forest. And there's no rhyme or reason. There are some interesting conspiracy theories. One is that the forest itself is cursed because Japan forsook its spiritual heritage for technological advancement. And so there are, I think it's pronounced Kami? Kami. There are angered Kami who live in the forest, and if you go there, they will possess you and make you destroy yourself. Because they feel that Japan destroyed its own soul in the pursuit of technological advancements. Other people claim that there is a type of fungus or mold that lives exclusively in that forest, that needs carrion to survive, so it infects the brains of people who go inside and makes them turn themselves into carrion. There was a movie about that, I want to say. About plants that make people kill themselves.
The ruins. Or no.
No.
Oh, no.
Yeah, dumbass Shyamalan wrote it.
The Happening.
The Happening. Thank you. Yeah, the plants literally were just making people in Minecraft themselves.
Yeah. See, I think of the ruins because that's the one
that had the creepy.
That was gory.
Those were murderous. That was murderous plants too, but they weren't suicide.
No, they actually got.
They were murderous. Anyway, though.
But you're talking about The Happening.
Yeah, The Happening is what I was thinking of. Plants that make you off yourself. But there are lots of conspiracy. There are stories that there's something hidden there, like a government facility, and if you see it, then you're a problem, and so they get rid of you. But hundreds of people since the 70s. By the way, we're in 2024. So from the 70s, assuming this started in 1970, that's 50 years. And there have been hundreds of people who have tragically, successfully ended themselves in this forest. And hundreds more have attempted to. Like I said, they don't mess around with this forest over there. This place is like, it is guarded, it is watched. In fact, only a few years ago there was a lot of controversy because obnoxious Americans with cameras decided that they would go and live stream and film in this forest, and the Japanese government is like, this is not a tourist trap, this is not a joke, put your damn camera down and get out. You're actually not supposed to go in there and film. In fact, you're really not supposed to go in there at all. There are signs and warnings and fences and stuff like that saying, hey, you don't need to be here. Turn around. Go. Leave. Lots of ones with like signs saying, think of the people you'll leave behind. There are other options, phone numbers, get help here, things like that. It is a really strange problem. And you might not believe this, but humdinger, there are tons of ghosts supposedly in this forest. Lots of people have gotten footage. It's interesting because in America, specters, which is a physical apparition, a person you can see, specters are considered the rarest kind of ghost to catch on footage. Aside from like shadow people. But like a whole person, an apparition, a physical thing, it is the rarest kind of thing. Except in Iko-Gahara. There are tons of photos and videos of these humans in the forest. I can't remember who it was, but there was this one guy who actually went in there, and there was a fence, a little chain fence, with a sign saying, stay out, you don't need to go any farther, turn around. And so, him and his buddies stepped over the fence and went deeper into the forest. And they were filming, and they found this woman crouched down like Smeagol on a rock. And so they're like, hey, do you need help? Are you okay? And then she turned and looked at them. And her eyes were either reflecting light or they were literally glowing. And so they decide to get the hell out of there. So they run away. And apparently they got lost. And several times when they were looking at the camera, talking to the camera, that woman was behind them, way off, and that she was stalking them. They found this woman who had apparently reflective or glowing eyes, and she started following them through the forest, the killing forest, if you will. But here's the thing. Eventually, they finally walked out of the forest and found a parking lot. And the woman stopped following them. She didn't leave the forest after them. And again, that's just one example. There are tons of people who film in the forest, and you're not supposed to. Again, I want to stress this. Because people always talk about, like, I'd like to go film here. I'd like to go do a seance there and stuff like that. According to the Japanese government, do not screw with this forest. Stay out. They don't want you in there. They don't want you experimenting or doing studies, anything. And they are serious about this. Like, again, people take it for granted. Because Japan used to be really lenient with foreigners, Not anymore. In the past, like very recently, the past few months, they've actually really cracked down on foreigners trying to film and live stream. There's actual like laws they have about if you can or cannot film and stuff like that. And it goes doubly so for the killing forest, which I find interesting, personally. Oh, yeah. Various links to the Edgefield related stuff in the chat. But anyway, yeah, this place is really dark, and it's interesting because you don't see governments stepping in with hauntings. You know what I mean? Like there's... I'm trying to think of the last time I've even heard a politician talk about, like, paranormal stuff.
It's all about UFOs, right?
Well, yeah, UFOs, but that's not the same thing as a haunting. Japan's government, again, I'm not talking about, like, some local sheriffs. I mean, like, we're talking ministers and officials have stepped in and made laws about this forest. And to me personally, that always kind of adds credence to like the conspiracy theories about it, I mean, because like people try really hard to explain this forest and why is it, if you're going to do that, why go to this specific forest? What is it about this place that, I mean, I know it's kind of a hard thing to discuss because, I mean, obviously you don't want to go into that mindset. Which, by the way, again, if that is the kind of thing that is in your mind, don't. Okay? Don't. It is not the answer. It doesn't make things easier. It just changes who has the problems. Okay?
This is... I'm going to post the numbers, but we've brought this up before.
Yeah, it's kind of creepy how we have trouble when we try to find phone numbers for this. We can get links to all kinds of stuff, charities, other YouTubes. For some reason, it's actually really hard to get resource links for the SPHL.
Yeah, the help is available. I'm just gonna throw it up because this comes up a lot.
Well, I mean, look at our channel. We're talking about hauntings and dead things and monsters and evil history. It's a thing that comes up. So again, I will reiterate. No. Okay, it is not the answer. And I'm gonna kind of be the mean person here for a minute and just say it. It really is a coward's thing. Okay, it is. Because again, you say you have problems, you say that there's bad things. Yeah, those things will still exist after you do it. The problem is that now you push those onto the people that cared about you. So no, don't do it. Okay? Talk to someone. Call up a number. Do anything but that. Which, by the way, real quick, and I might get kicked off the air for this, but I'm going to say it anyway.
Oh.
Fuck Google, fuck YouTube for saying that I'm not allowed to even say the word. Okay? Fuck you guys. But anyway, back to my point. I'm sorry, I feel it's a cowardly position.
It really is. It's like
it's a cowardly position because this needs to be talked about.
I threw up the numbers.
Thank you. Okay?
And
look, you do not need to be a part of the mythos of horror that is the Killing Forest, okay? I don't even know how else to follow it up. It's not a joke. It's not a cool legend. It is the depth of darkness in a person's life. So yeah, no, don't do that. And don't be afraid to talk about it, okay? Seriously. But this forest is bizarre. You know what I mean? Because, I mean, on the one hand, you wish it didn't exist. You know what I mean? I think the world would be a better place if there was not a killing forest. Creepy side note, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. So one of its the name directly translates to the Blue Tree Meadow. If I recall correctly, and if I'm wrong, I hope someone can correct me on this. The color blue is bad in Japan, isn't it? Aren't like cursed things blue? Isn't blue a dangerous color?
I cannot honestly say.
I want to say blue is something bad in Japanese mythology.
I can't honestly say. Hold on.
Yeah, hold on a second. See, Connie agrees with me. Thank you, Connie. Yeah, no.
And that's like black in Japanese culture.
Because I know in China, black and white are switched. Black is the good color, white is the bad color.
Black.
But that's Chinese.
Black in Japanese culture represents unhappiness, fear, evil, bad luck, or misfortune.
Yeah, they're like the West. In the Western cultures, black is an evil color.
Okay, hold on. What color is bad in Chinese mythology?
Yeah, but I don't know. Something is sticking out like a sore thumb. Like blue, it has some kind of negative indication. You have something.
The original symbolism of white is bad and black is good in China.
Yeah.
However, due to the influence of Western culture, the reverse became the case. Black is now seen as omen, plague, disaster. So, okay, originally, yeah, white was bad.
Yeah, I know that because I've read the Three Kingdoms. The warrior Ma Chao, he wore a white robe underneath his armor. And it was because he was in mourning for his father who was assassinated. And he became known as like this specter of death, this evil omen. And his own soldiers would claim he was undead until basically he met Zhang Fei, and Zhang Fei slapped some sense into him. It's like, hey, you're not avenging your father by being a ghost story, dude. You need to, get back and join society and help us fight the man who assassinated him. But anyway, yeah, that's how I learned that white was originally the color of evil in China.
Western
and yeah, it flipped because in the West, black was the color of bad and white was good.
Well, white's considered the absence of color.
Well, I'm saying white is often used as a symbol of purity in Western cultures. But blue, I don't know, something about blue is sticking out to me as being bad. Maybe I'm remembering something from an anime or something. I don't know, but something about the color blue is sticking out like a sore thumb to me. But anyway, my point is the Killing Forest, as I call it the Killing Forest. It is a horrible hotspot of paranormal stuff. And it's kind of it's funny. Because I talked about how I wouldn't want to go to the Stanley Hotel because I think the Stanley Hotel is a hoax. I'd like to go to Edgefield because I think it's real. I don't want to go to the Killing Forest because I think it's also real. I don't know if it is something paranormal or supernatural, but it's the result is undeniable.
Yeah, there is a lot of
hundreds of people in the past 50 years have ended themselves in that place. And hundreds more have tried to and been stopped. Thankfully, by the way, good job real quick to the brave men and women who actually patrol that forest routinely and stop people. God, that has to be one of the hardest jobs I could imagine.
Yeah, because it's like when you have to deal with that, you have to deal with it.
Yeah, and it's hard to deal with, you know what I mean? Because like if someone is pushed that far, it's one of they fight. They'll fight you. People that are that far off, you know, in the darkness, they'll fight you.
Yeah. They'll
claw and scratch and spit and I mean, we in America, we make jokes about how like people will be a difficult suspect will be like hogtied or something, you know. Over there, it's no joke. Like,
it's like, well, what do? You save them, or it's like, oh well, I came here for this anyway. Go.
Nope. No, absolutely not. You do not give up on someone.
And it's like, well, what is the person, the first responders, the officers? What do they do? It's like, well,
you restrain them. I mean, I'm sorry, it's not easy. That's kind of the point of why you're there. You know, it takes a special kind of person. Fun side note, there is a voluntary, I don't think they use the term themselves, but they're kind of like a militia, actually, of civilians, volunteers who also patrol the forest. There are police who do, it's part of their routine, their regiment to go through and sweep through, but there is actually a volunteer militia of civilians who also routinely enter the killing forest to save people. So kudos to those guys.
Yeah, nobody's actually been murdered there.
As far as I know, no, it's only suicide. That thing. It's only no. What's the?
Fuck you two.
I agree. No, what's the one the Bushido? Harakiri?
Seppuku. Yeah.
Seppuku?
Harakiri, yeah.
It's one of the two.
Harakiri is the act. Seppuku is the actual doing of it.
Okay.
Or I'm backwards on that. Yeah, Harakiri is the act. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a ritual of you.
Redemption.
You
a criminal or a failure does it to make up for something. Yeah.
And this is Japanese.
That's
society.
Bushido. It's part of the Bushido philosophy, I think.
Harakiri is the ritual
of it. Self-impalement.
Yeah, because you feel you
failed, or a criminal would be forced to do it. I recall.
Seppuku is
slightly different. The impaling specifically is harakiri, I believe.
Yeah.
Seppuku is like other methods.
I'm doing the ritual compared to I'm stabbing myself.
Yeah.
I think is the difference. I could be wrong on that.
I believe there are ghost stories that Oda Nobunaga was actually forced to do it. But that's like a ghost story. There's no confirmation to that. But anyhow, yeah, this forest is bizarre. And it's one of those things where it's like, the more you learn about it, the less you'll want to know. You know what I mean? Because there's no happy story here. This is a dark, evil place. You're looking it up now, huh?
Harakiri and seppuku mean exactly the same thing in Japanese, but
okay.
Japanese people almost never use the word harakiri and prefer the word seppuku instead.
Okay.
Harakiri refers to... yeah, see, because I've always heard it seppuku, but...
I've heard it harakiri.
Yeah, everybody in the West calls it harakiri. And according to this...
It's the same thing, it's just...
It's seppuku.
Seppuku is the correct way to... Okay.
It's like how we call them Japan, like...
But they themselves call themselves Nappen?
Nihon.
Nihon.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Nihonjin. Yeah.
But anyhow, yeah, no.
I'm not gonna throw up a link to this. Look it up if you want.
Yeah, this is not something.
There's nothing too graphic.
But it's also nothing really. Yeah. But anyway, it's a shame, really, because Also, the pictures I've seen of it, it is a nice place. It is a pretty forest. But I guess, looks can be deceiving, right? Yeah, not sure how. Fortunately, this was the last place we were going to talk about tonight, because I don't know how you go anywhere else from this, right? Yeah, some people slash themselves. Anyway, though.
It has very rarely been committed seppuku since feudal Japan. The 19th century, there was an author, Mishima Yukio, in 1970 committed it to protest the decline of martial culture in Japan in 1970.
Yeah.
So it's not practiced today.
Well, obviously,
so,
yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
But then again, I mean, as you're talking, some people might.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
It is not a cultural thing. It is still destroying yourself, and no, you shouldn't. Even if you feel like you're some kind of failure, I'm just going to say the ugly, mean thing. You can't make it better by doing that to yourself. I think it was actually Yushitsugu Otani, I believe, who actually denounced the idea of seppuku, saying that I believe his words, and he was a highly controversial guy. We should talk about him sometime. He said there's no honor in dying because the dead don't serve the living. You you screwed up and you messed up for your Lord. Well, what are you going to do for him as a corpse? You know what I mean? He was really controversial. I like him, though. I like Otani. Funny first name, though. Yushitsugu. And by the way, that's actually how it's pronounced. That's a sad thing. But anyway.
Yeah, Mishima.
Yeah, he was an author.
Yeah. Mishima Yukio was the last person traditionally
who did it.
He did it traditionally. He had the second person who beheaded him after he impaled himself in 1970. According to this, in 1970. But in general, self-killing yourself is the leading cause of death among Japanese men.
That is painfully sad. Even one person doing it is too many, personally, in my opinion. But
yeah, I'd say that.
Yeah, no, don't do that. Don't. What was it we said the other week? Don't let some stupid goat demon beat you. Don't let a damn forest. Don't let a bunch of trees beat you. Come on, man. You're stronger than that. You're better than that. I know you are. And I don't care who hears this. You're stronger than some forest. You're stronger than some unwanted, aborted goat demon thing that some lady threw off a bridge. You're better than all those things. All right? And I know that because I know you're going to be here next week when we talk about whatever we're talking about then.
It's like if your job makes you feel really bad, just your job.
There are options. I'll give you, this is not the greatest economy in the world. Fine. But there is always another option. There is always one. Okay, and I mean that. So, stick around, because we're going to be back next week. What are we talking about next week, Bishop?
Books.
Yeah. No, Sean brings up a good point. Santa Claus beat up an evil tree. So can you. Remember that?
Yeah.
When we were talking about the actual Saint Nicholas, he defeated the tree that was possessed by a demon. Hey, little guy.
Mm-hmm. He's excited.
Yeah. No. Next week. You say books.
I looked to my right and saw a book. But
you know what I want to talk about? Actually, something a topic that I've wanted to talk about for a while, because I actually really like this topic. lesser known saints. Lesser known saints. Because I actually like, I know it's funny for an atheist to say, I actually like the saints. I like the legends and the mythology of various saints. So next week we're going to talk about lesser known saints and maybe teach you something. Sean, talk about the Necronomicon. The Necronomicon, you know, we could probably devote a whole episode to talking about more about H.P. Lovecraft. We did before. We've already talked about him. Saint Simon, yeah, that sounds vaguely familiar. But anyway, yeah, next week we're going to talk about lesser known saints. So you got to stick around to see that. And again, you're not going to let some unwanted goat demon or a bunch of obnoxious trees aren't going to get you.
No.
Hell yeah. And hey, at the very least, stick around to spite them.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? But anyway, boys and girls, I am Kristoff N. Chester. This is Dear Doggo Famine, Gluttony. The kobold is still bouncing around. We got the bishop over in the corner. Fuck Stephen King. Fuck Google. Edgefield is cool.
My ears.
And as always, everybody.
And
of course, yep, TJ Scraps, the bouncing kobold. Oh!
he's gone.
Where'd he go? Okay. Hope he isn't going to find that knife. He really shouldn't be allowed to play with that thing. It's bigger than he is. But anyway, keep checking the shadows.